Good morning, everybody. Tex Homer here, Ian Boyd. It is the Wednesday show where we talk schematics and strategy. I've had the flu the past couple of days, so if I'm a little bit dumb, I apologize. Ian will have to carry us as usual with his intellectual might. We are going to talk about why our third down defense was so good last year and how we could potentially continue to do that with this latest slate of guys in 2025. And then also who is going to be the star, the actual position star of the defense, suppose. And maybe that person will be the star, the great player too, but who knows? We have to kind of figure that out. It's going to be important. Good morning, AR. Good morning, Rooster. All right, Ian, are you prepared?
Yep.
All right. Let's start with your article that's Can Texas Build Another Elite Third Down Defense? And then we'll go to how we could put it together this year. How about that? Works. Okay. Let's share screen. Okay.
Nelson. Yeah, log that for later, that Nelson question.
Okay, cool. I got it started. We'll come back to it, Brett. And if we forget, remind us. Okay, so not just this last season, the season prior, we've had 2 years of really great third down defense, but they weren't exactly the same thing. So can you kind of explain why we were able to be successful in two different ways?
The best third down defense that maybe we've ever seen at Texas by the numbers was 2023. I bet you with a different schedule, I think the 2024 third down defense was actually better, but the schedule was different.
Right. Big 12 versus SEC, right?
The reason that the 2023 third down defense was so good was because you couldn't run the ball on that team in short yardage. You couldn't run the ball. And I think they happened into – certainly they had a lot of big third and fourth downs in big games. But I guess they were just good enough at tackling or whatever. I think they happened into a lot of third and short situations. And it was so hard because it was Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, right?
Yeah.
It was impossible. And Jalen Ford, who was, I think Texas actually took a step back at linebacker without Jalen Ford this year. I know the numbers, Hill was amazing. He's a high impact player, but just in terms of standard linebacking and fitting gaps aggressively and precisely, Ford was way better than Hill was last year. So, okay, 2023, historically good third down defense stats, mostly because you couldn't run the ball in any key spot because they were too insanely powerful inside. Last year, they finished, what does it say, 7th? 31.4% third down percentage.
Yeah, 7th.
That's actually way better. I looked up PK's Washington defenses once, and his third down defenses at Washington were usually not anywhere near that good. They were outstanding. And I attribute it almost entirely to the third down package, which basically was a way for Texas to build the entire defense in like emulation of one of those early 2000s Tampa 2 defense in the NFL.
Yeah. The Kiffin.
The Kiffin style.
The Tampa Bay.
The way the old school, well, maybe I shouldn't say old school, the way the like well-known popular 2000s Tampa 2 NFL defenses worked was the teams would play like cover 1 or cover 3 on first down, load the box with speed, force you into third down, and then on third down they would drop into Tampa 2. And they would play, the middle linebacker would drop to the deep middle, the 2 safeties would play over the top like in cover 2, and then underneath they would have the 2 outside linebackers and the 2 corners. And they had guys like people of my generation or older probably remember like Rondé Barber.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember some of the other. There were some other corners that were just amazing at picking off passes, playing underneath. Yeah. Those corners get to play a little more free underneath around the chains and jump passes. And sometimes they come from outside the quarterback's vision.
So why would you do a Tampa 2, which is technically in the cover 3 family, even though it's called a 2? Why would you drop a linebacker to the post there? Is that to make up for some type of weakness in a too high defense?
Yeah, because the corners are playing in the way outside and over the top. But if you hit them up the middle, it's a weak spot.
Yeah.
Especially if you hit them up the middle fast while they're also worried about something like on the sideline.
Yeah. So why this variation was created is if you see these safeties here, they'll bail out wide, get out. Well, that means this post is going to be wide open. So if you're able to get somebody up on a seam or a post really quick there, you can hit them up the middle. It ends up being a middle field open coverage. Sorry with my voice. But you can solve this by dropping a linebacker or a linebacker type player right there, and you can cancel out that weakness of the defense.
What ends up happening is if you're playing against Tampa 2, it's really hard to find anything deep because you have your quick middle shot is taken by the middle linebacker, and then anything anywhere else, the safeties are deep and they're just sitting on it to break downhill on it. So the quarterback ends up he either holds the ball and gets sacked because Tampa 2 defenses build their defensive lines for speed and pass rush, or he's throwing it underneath because there's lots of vacant spots underneath. But that's what they want you to do because then those guys underneath are overplaying the chains, and then they'll rally and make tackles on anything underneath.
Yeah. And yeah, if you can get a linebacker like that, they can turn and run like an Urlacher or something like that too. Now you're cooking.
A lot of famous defenses are built around that. The 49ers have that dude. Is it Wagner?
I don't know.
And
I'm a casual NFL fan. I'm a college where I'm diehard.
I think he was with the Seahawks too, with the Legion of Boom. They had a guy that could turn and run at linebacker.
No, Bobby Wagner.
He's saying Warner. I thought it was Wagner. I want to say KJ Wright too, but I can't quite remember. Fred Warner. No, he's right. Fred Warner. That's the right answer. So that's how the traditional defense worked. That's not how Texas's worked. Texas had cheats.
So we play variation.
We play Tampa 2, but we play it with entirely different third down personnel.
Yep. And what the hell do we mean by that, Ian?
Texas played a 1-4-6. That's 1 defensive lineman, 4 linebackers, and 6 defensive backs. We're using linebacker pretty loosely.
We're using linebacker in like the 3-4 sense.
Yeah. 3 of those linebackers, if you look them up on the Texas roster, next to their name it says edge.
Yeah.
So it's like a defensive end. It's not exactly a 1-4-6, but if you just go by the roster designation, it doesn't say defensive lineman. It says edge, and then Hill played, and Hill is a linebacker.
So what does that mean, Ian? Does that mean that there's one guy on the defensive line?
No, it was if you look at it, it looks like a 4-2-5 with the nickel playing way back off the ball. That's how they would line up. Do you have that actual?
This is the 5-1 where I think Baron Sorrell kicks out.
If you have the screenshot, that'd be maybe a little better for our viewers. So the guy that's like standing up on the line near the playoff first round field logo, that's Anthony Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're saying, he's going to drop back and play linebacker. The other linebacker is Jahdae Barron.
On the hashes up there.
On the hashes.
The top hash.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5 yards off the ball. Then you got 2 safeties, Gilbo on the top and Bakuba on the bottom.
Yeah.
And they're playing down as though they were going to end up playing man coverage on those inside receivers. But that's not what happens. Then you have Jelani McDonald in the deep middle. Usually that was Michael Taff. And then you have Gavin Holmes on bottom and Manny Muhammad on top. So that's 6 defensive backs. 5 of them are playing normal defensive back positions. One of them, Jahdae Barron, is playing linebacker. Hill is playing linebacker. And then on the line, you have Colin Simmons in an edge spot.
Farthest away from us is Colin Simmons.
Next to him is Baron Sorrell, who would often play as a 3 technique, which would be inside the tackle. On this play, it looks like he's actually in a 5 or a 4.
And you're going to do that 3 technique to get one-on-one pass rushing. So if you have Colin Simmons on the outside at the top of your screen by that 100 logo, that's Colin Simmons. He'll be matched up on the left tackle. If you can move Baron in and match him up head-on-head with the guard's not going to be able to do any work with Colin Simmons. You're basically guaranteeing Colin Simmons a one-on-one pass rush. And that's very important because this is a 3rd down package. So we want a mix of coverage and pass rush, and that's why it's designed like this. And then you have Vernon Broughton, I think, in a 0.
Yeah.
So you have Vernon Broughton, 0 technique as well. This also, so now we know for a fact Colin Simmons is getting a one-on-one, Baron Sorrell's getting a one-on-one, and Baron doesn't get credit for it, but Baron's a good pass rusher. And then Vernon Broughton's heads up, so he'll have it there. And then they're pressuring Anthony Hill. He's mugged up at the line, trying to make the guard account for him like it is going to be one-on-one. He's going to end up dropping out to the hook curl towards the SEC logo, though.
And then on the very bottom is Trey Moore.
And then you have Trey Moore. So they're trying to put 5 on the line to make the offensive line check a protection into 5-0 protection, man protection. Every lineman needs to block one guy, and that gives advantageous matchups to the defense. And then on top of that, with all these pass rushers on the field, you have a ton of defensive backs that can cover these guys. So it's if you got the depth for it, it's a pain in the ass to deal with.
Yes. If you can't run the ball, if you're not in a situation where running the ball makes sense, it's awful. They would play 2.5 coverages with this. And they'd usually just like show one and then play the other, which feels like that maybe should have been kind of obvious, but
still
maybe 3.5 coverages. Sometimes they would actually play a 0 blitz with this, but not very often. The 2 main coverages were cover 1 and Tampa 2. Cover 1, those 2 safeties on the outside would drop down and play the inside receivers, and McDonald would stay back in the post. Tampa 2, he would come down a little bit and play where that Mike would drop to in an old school Tampa 2, which is a lot better than dropping a Mike there because he doesn't have to turn his back. He can see everything develop, and it's way more precise. And then those 2 outside safeties bail into deep half cover 2 techniques.
We got a question from Mighty Joe Cook. How similar is this to Orlando's effective 2017 Lightning Dime package?
Oh, that one. Almost the same.
Except just better players.
Except that Orlando usually only brought 3, or he would bring 5 in a fire zone blitz. And he played the same kind of 3 deep safety Tampa 2 thing. But rather than playing with just 4 guys underneath, he would play with 5 guys underneath a lot. So there'd be the middle safety playing like the Mike, but then there'd also be a shallower Mike linebacker in the middle. And he would get by with in 17, it would be like Poona Ford, Breckenhager, and Charles Amenahu as the 3 down guys. And that actually tended to get pretty decent pressure just with those 3. And if you flush the quarterback out, then it was like game over because the linebackers were Malik Jefferson and Gary Johnson, who were like 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
And the outside linebackers were safeties. So they were also 4.5, 4.6 speed kind of guys. Deshaun Elliott and PJ Locke and that other mainstay from Jason Hall. So similar, but not exactly the same. This defense is a little more get after the quarterback with people with a 4-down rush. And if you watch all the cut-ups of Tampa 2 that Texas played last year, I would bet the majority of them ended with a check down that was tackled short of the chains and then a punt.
Yeah, let's watch the actual.
Not this one, though.
Yeah, let's watch the actual play. So we're going to actually be watching Colin Simmons at the top of your screen by that 100 logo. But this will show you. And then, like we said, be looking for Ant Hill around the playoff logo to drop out to the hook curl.
There you go. Tampa 2. Anthony Hill got a deep drop, which is essential to
But you see how fast Cade has to make this decision? Like with this pass rush, dude, like that sucks. Like look how like you got make your play.
Do it again in real time. So 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. It's not actually that bad.
It just feels emotionally fast.
The edges are up the field very quickly, but they didn't actually beat their guys.
Yeah. But I don't think that's even the point. Like, I think the point is just, you know, that you have one-on-ones with Simmons, Sorrell, Broughton are all getting one-on-ones. Trey Moore is going to end up with a one-on-one. This guard is in no man's land and does nothing. So the fake pressuring of Hill actually really works there because that guard ends up finally at the end picking up a stunt. But
he did pretty good. I think Klubnik actually felt a lot more pressure than was actually the case because he had room to step up, and instead
he could have stepped up to the right too.
He just kind of like walks. He does like a Quinn does this sometimes, but when Quinn does this, it actually works pretty well. He just kind of throws on the move, moving forward.
It takes like 3 steps and
Quinn actually, when Quinn does that, you're like, great, this is going to work out good, but not. Klubnik needs to set his feet more. He doesn't have that same
so you see what's frustrating here, though, right? So you have the pass rush, and so you know that you're going to be on one-on-ones. You have to get the ball out quickly, theoretically. You're not really going to take time to verify. So you have the shallow route here that if you throw it, we have our guys that are fast enough to rally down and stop your third down. Your guys that are at the sticks, we can meet them there. And then anybody deep, we have coverage on that too.
That's the big key with the Tampa 2 is that those linebackers and corners need to get to the sticks and take away anything quick there so that they force the check down underneath.
Yeah.
And they were good at that. They obviously worked on it all offseason to be good at it.
It was a major issue the previous years.
Yeah. Major credit to Anthony. Look at Anthony Hill, man. Look how far off he dropped to make sure that he didn't let anything get behind him at the chains.
He tries to check it off there, and Broughton's no.
So Barron is just going to tackle him anyway, and then Hill's probably going to end up murdering him if he gets a shot.
Yeah.
If he even had hit that throw. But then what you're saying, Broughton tipped it anyway?
It looks like it, but it's kind of a little blurry. But let's see. I don't know how it ends up getting. No, I think
Sorrell.
Yeah,
I think it was Sorrell.
Ends up tipping it.
Man,
that's not fun to deal with as an opposing offense at all. So these are the guys that played it last year in their positions.
The main guys. I think most of the defensive roster played in the package in one of the roles. Like even the one we just watched was not the one that I laid out. They had like some backups in.
And then what do we have here? A simulated pressure with disguised Tampa 2 behind it as a changeup is nasty.
So this is really high level.
Explain it as simplified as we can.
It's the same thing, only they're showing a 4-man pressure, but instead Burke is going to drop out and play one of the linebacker spots. He's right there, yeah. And Anthony Hill is going to come and blitz up the middle. He's currently covered by the big blue.
Last few drives.
Oh, wait.
I can control it this way. Let's see what we'll do.
Is that LaFau or Taft?
Yeah, it's LaFau that they're going to bring.
Oh, LaFau gets in the action. And Burke has to play
the flat.
So they forced the quick check down, which I think might have been tipped. And even if it hadn't, Barron is going to smother that. You know what? This is actually the 4-2-5 package. They're not in dime right now.
Well, yeah, because they got Leonga and Hill.
They're running the Tampa 2 defense from the base package on this play, which is also when you can.
They drop Taft down.
Yeah, Taft plays the Mike safety. Hill slides over, so instead of playing the right hook, he plays the left hook, and Burke drops to play the right hook.
And the fans had no problem with this simulated pressure.
Yeah.
Because it worked, right? But as soon as you get beat on a screen on it, it's the worst call ever, right? But I didn't hear anyone complaining about this simulated pressure when it worked, right?
Whoever was blitzing off the edge, I think it was Simmons, tipped that.
Yep.
Is that Simmons? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Simmons. You can just tell by his menacing stance. He just has no wasted, like, he just gets right off, man.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
We
need to do a whole video just on.
I'm gonna do one where I have every sack he made all year, and that'll be good fodder for this show for sure.
Yeah. Okay, another wrinkle. So originally we were moving Sorrell into that 3 technique, we said, to increase pass rushing, but we have some variations on it that can also stress out offensive line. So what are the variations we can play with it on mostly line games?
Well, sometimes they would play Trey Moore or Colin Simmons as a stand-up mugging linebacker in the 3-tech position. So yeah, you've got it right there. Imagine that's Colin Simmons and he's standing up right there. And then he could either drop or blitz or stunt or whatever. And then they would often put Anthony Hill over the other guard. And so like you're saying earlier, when you have 5 guys on the line like that, the offense has to check into man-to-man up front.
Yep.
And then maybe you don't even bring all 5, but you already have them in a predictable protection.
Correct. Yeah, you usually don't even bring all 5.
And then you slant and slide guys around in ways that makes it really hard for them to pick up who's got who, because now they're like, okay, man-to-man, I got this guy. Oh, he moved. Now I have to pick somebody else up,
Yeah. And then what do you have here? Okay, this is your.
They can also just blitz guys and then just play man coverage behind it.
Yeah.
Which is what they often show. They usually show a blitz coverage like this, and then a lot of the time they drop into Tampa too. So you end up throwing something where you're like, okay, we're getting blitzed. We got to get the ball out fast. And then you drop
throw right to somebody sitting there.
You throw the rest, and then they just tackle you, and then you punt. But sometimes they would actually blitz. And when they actually blitz, it's awful. Because everyone is covered by
a real defensive back.
And a defensive back. Last year, the 2 inside guys, the 3 guys that were playing inside. So strong safety is Makuba, who played nickel for 2 years at Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Star is Gilbo, who's basically a corner.
Yep.
And the dime is Jade Barron, who was the Thorpe Award winner at
and who was also a nickel, so knew how to play inside too.
So there's nowhere to go with the ball where you have a guy like college offenses really usually feast on finding the guy that can't play coverage in the slot, and that guy doesn't.
That didn't exist. Yeah, that was fun, man. All right. So we saw why we were able to do this. We introduced the scheme, but we need to talk how we're going to be able to recreate it this upcoming year. But before we do that, guys, let's hear a word from David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach, and he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
All right, Ian. Now we must recreate it. Once again, this is what we were able to do last year. This group of fellas.
Yeah.
But now we got to change it up, Ian.
Yeah.
So this is what we're thinking. What's your logic behind this? So this is what Ian thinks the new dime would look like, or should look like right now. Colin Simmons at edge. Not a shocking development. Ethan Burke at defensive tackle, and that would be the Baron Sorrell right, where he moves in from an end to a 3 technique defensive tackle. Nose would be Travis Shaw. Who would you like as a pass rusher?
Theoretically.
Okay. And that would replace Vernon Broughton from what we just saw on the trip.
You just want somebody that can move well, especially laterally. I think Justice Terry or January may end up being the best for it, but we'll see.
Okay.
Like Hero, somebody suggested Hero Canoe in the comments of the article. That might be okay, but Canoe is not like a pass rusher. The incoming guys are all like space eaters, except potentially Shaw, who actually has real explosiveness to him, but he needs to lose a little weight, get better conditioning. And I don't know if he knows how to use his hands as a pass rusher yet, which is a pretty big drawback, but
yeah, hopefully, right? And then you yeah, it seems like some pretty important things you need to do to be a pass rusher. But Trey Moore is the opposite end. Yep. Anthony Hill, of course, will remain where he's at, and he can be in that position where he mugs up or he drops out into coverage like we saw. Now, what's interesting here is Taff would end up taking Jade Barron's spot at the will linebacker. So he would move down and basically take Leona Lafau's spot. And so what are we looking for in that will linebacker? What do they do? What is the special skill set we need in this package at that position that Jade Barron was able to do?
Jade Barron was really good in that package at reading route combinations to his left and to his right and balancing that against reading the quarterback's eyes so that he could take away the quarterback's primary read. So the key is like you can't let them hit a quick slant or a quick stop route or something at the chains, because then you're just the easy first down. And then maybe they rush to the line and run a power run while you're in your tiny personnel package and they start running you over until you call timeout and yell uncle, right? So your linebackers have to be really, really good at protecting those quick over the middle blitz beaters. And Hill was pretty good at it. And Barron really made that work a lot. Barron was pretty instrumental in making that work. So you'd think like, oh, we have to replace Jade Barron at this position, so we need another like star, amazing cornerback. I don't think so. I think it was
smartest. You need the smartest defensive back.
Yeah, the quickest processor.
Yeah.
So I figure that's Taff.
Yeah.
It feels like that's a pretty safe.
Yeah. And then true corner would be Gilbo. So he'd be actually outside. And
assuming he moves to cornerback this year, then he'll also probably play cornerback in this package.
Yeah. And then you have brought Jelani McDonald to the star position at nickel. Why is that?
Well, that's also assuming the deal that I wrote about this week where they move Gilbo to corner and they play McDonald as the star.
Okay.
Which they may or may not even do.
Yeah.
But it sounds like I think that's their plan at this point, what they want to build toward based on some of the reporting like Eric has done. And so they would just stay in those spots in this package.
Okay. Is Jordan Johnson-Rubel playing that high field safety?
Yeah.
Okay. So he would be where McDonald was he would be where McDonald is at the top of your screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's either playing the post or he's dropping down to rob stuff in the middle.
Then you would have Derek Williams at boundary.
Yeah. The star and the boundary safety in the Tampa 2 are basically the same. Mm-hmm. It's just which side of the field you line up on. But the roles are exactly the same. You're either in cover 2 or you're in man on a slot. I guess it's possible that they might like McDonald to play that back middle role instead of JJR. And maybe JJR plays the star or the boundary. I don't know. It sounds like JJR can do anything. Like the things we hear about him are like he's like the next Taff. Where he's probably not the best athlete back there, but he's not a bad one by any means. And he processes well and he understands things quickly. So
that's what I care about in safeties, man.
Yeah, especially if you can get a corner in your nickel.
Yeah. And then, of course, Derek Williams, like I said, he'll come down, and then Manny Muhammad at corner.
Those safety spots, the backup spots, are really key in this because you're already up against it with like JJR needs to be good, which sounds like he will be.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Williams needs to be healthy
Mm-hmm.
and be able to get back. Jelani McDonald needs to make the leap. Taff is nails, but he has to stay healthy, and ideally he would gain a bunch of weight to help him do that. And
Jalen's got to make the successful transition to outside corner all the time.
Yeah. But just for safety, even after that, you still really need one of these other guys, at least one other guy, to figure it out. So, like, you need Jonah Williams to hit immediately. And I know everybody's going to assume Jonah Williams because he's the freakiest guy back there. But that's like one of those – that's like it's kind of like Harold Perkins at LSU. Like, yes, he's freaky, but he actually has to learn how to play the game. I don't think Jonah Williams is going to be like that or that bad.
You're just using it as an idea, an example of what you're talking
about. Yeah, the freaky athleticism does not translate here like, say, like Colin Simmons at edge.
Right, where it's just get off the ball and go.
Yeah, Colin Simmons is a hard worker, and he learns the game well too. So he's also not exactly like Perkins. Yeah. But there's also a lot of things Colin Simmons can just be great at immediately because he's freaky.
Yeah.
You can't really be great immediately at safety because you have freaky athleticism.
Yeah. You have to know your position, you have to know your coverages, and also understand the offense's route distribution. There's a lot going on there. And then make sure that you're in tandem with all your guys. It's a thinking man's position.
And false steps are, if you're fast, it's almost worse because you just get out of position
quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you're that top safety and you start cheating to the left and that quarterback looks you off, then it's trouble. So yeah, you're right. It's not as simple as like lining up as a 3 technique on the defensive line and like get the quarterback.
Safety depth makes me a little nervous. We really need like either Jonah Williams to take to it like a fish to water, or Phil Sami to make an enormous leap, or like Wardell Mack to move over there and transition really cleanly, something like that. Or for there to be another Michael Taft that we don't know about in the walk-on ranks that just kind of shows up, which as far as I know, there's not.
Let's hit this. We kind of missed this when we were talking the edge stuff, but
oh yeah,
is this the best edge defensive end room since 2008?
So 2009 was actually really, really good too. I guess 2008 was better. 2008 was Henry Belton was kind of like the Jack equivalent. So he was like your Sorrell. And he would move inside on third downs. And then they had Sergio Kindle and Brian Arakpo. 2009, they had Sam Acho and Sergio Kindle, which doesn't get remembered the same way because there was no Arakpo, but it was also pretty devastating. 2017 and 2018, they got a lot of bang for their buck with just Breckenhager and Charles Abinahu rushing. And they didn't have amazing stats, but they were playing in a 3-man rush all the time. And I'm not saying these are the better ones. I'm saying these are the ones that you'd like have to contend against. And then 2013, they had Cedric Reed and Jackson Jeffcoat, right? Or 2012. One of those years, it was like 2012 was like Okafor and Jeffcoat, and 2013 was like Reed and Jeffcoat. So those were all pretty intimidating. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the best since 08, baby. Undoubtedly. I'm just trying. Well, the tricky part is like I'm just trying to think to NFL draft projections.
Well, for NFL draft projections, so this next one, is that what we're talking about? Your guys are Burke, Simmons, and Moore.
Burke, Simmons, Moore. Burke's going to have incredible length. He's I don't know where he's going to project. Simmons is a first rounder. Morris, I don't know. What do you think? Second, third, fourth?
I mean, right now, no, or else he'd be gone.
Well, after this next year.
I don't know. I think Moore is up against it because he's
Doesn't
not
have the traits.
He doesn't have the traits. He's like, he needs to be an inside linebacker that blitzes a lot in the NFL. I think he's like an ideal NFL inside linebacker, but he's so good at rushing the passer that you can't waste him at inside linebacker at the college level.
But how do you feel about like the depth?
The depth is the best for sure.
Since 08. So my thing is like when I think of the room being the best, too, it's like, well, you have Vosick in the wings, you have Zena in the wings, you have Lance Jackson in the like as far as like top to like sitting in that room, you'd be like, there's a lot of pros in here.
I think top line though, I don't know if they'll be as good as Acho Kindle or Arakpo Kindle.
As the pure starters.
Just the pure starters, yeah. They might. I mean, if they don't this year, they might next year if it's like a fully realized healthy Vosick, Simmons, and maybe like Umi Ozulers. That I think might be the one that's like a level that Texas football's never seen before. This one, I don't know if the top line is quite there, but this is the best depth I've ever seen in that room, ever. Easily.
Cool.
Didn't Jeffcoat go undrafted? Is that right?
I don't know, but he went to was he Plano? Was Jeffcoat Plano East?
I think so.
You can look it up.
He obviously had a bad rap with the scouts coming out of college.
I don't remember what he was. No, I'm tripping. He was
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus unfairly, but I think there was at least one Texas radio guy at the time that kept pointing out all the time that like, hey, on these plays where Jeffcoat is not rushing the passer, he is like a huge negative and he doesn't do anything, which I didn't notice. But
I just remember during that period of like hearing about him, man. Like just like hey man, have you heard about Jackson Jeffcoat? He's killer. You know, it's always fun.
His highlight was Greg Robinson moved him to an off-ball spinner pass rushing position for the Alamo Bowl against Oregon, and he had like 3 or 4 sacks or something insane. And it was like, that was awesome, but I kind of wish y'all had done this before now. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was like 2013, I think. I don't remember. Something like that.
All right. So we talked a little bit about it, but finding the star. Not the star of the defense, the star position, the 5th defensive back. So what are you thinking here? This is what it looks like. They cover the number 2 receiver and or to the field a lot of the times.
Yeah. So ideally, there's a million different things this position could end up doing. I think the most important is if you can cover that slot in man coverage that's across from you. I think that's like the most valuable thing for a nickel. But could also just be playing zone in all that space, which requires a similar skill set. But instead of man coverage, you need to be good at zone, so processing what's around you and seeing what's coming. Blitzing the edge. There are some teams that play guys that aren't necessarily even amazing in coverage, but are like good at zone coverage and then terrific at blitzing, like Vanderbilt used.
Uh-huh.
Texas usually leans towards coverage, but they blitz the nickel a ton. Like people complain about it, right? You could end up in the box as a run fitter, like almost like a linebacker. So you could be in more like a box safety role. and you need to be very physical on the perimeter, on runs to the perimeter, and on screens outside.
That's what Jade Barron, when he played nickel at, was remarkable.
Yeah, he had a technique for beating receiver blocks.
Yeah,
where he would like basically cross them up. I have a clip of Jelani McDonald below doing it. He's not using any special technique. He's just mauling the guy in front of him and shoving him
just a bigger, better athlete.
He's just a big dude.
So this also too, why you'll blitz the nickel or the star. Let's see. Can y'all see my screen? So why can you blitz them? Because this safety sits over the top. So this is why you have to be aware anytime there's a safety over another defensive back that they can fire them on a blitz, because now this safety can just pick up H. And so you have to be hyper aware of that, especially if this H starts to the offense wants to condense the split there and bring the H in. You bring the nickel in, fire the nickel, and then you get the safety to pick up H. And Texas struggled with that on the offensive side. In our condensed splits, we would bring everybody in so we could break the wide receivers out. But a lot of the times the teams would just say F it and fire the nickel. And Quinn really struggled with that. Vanderbilt was a team that stuck out doing that.
I'm going to read to you guys the best blitzing nickel I've ever seen in my entire life. 2021 Jalen Peter at Baylor. Petrie, yeah. For Dave Aranda's zone blitzing defense. Texas tried to just put tight ends on the field and bully him, and he drove Brewer and especially Wiley, just drove them into the backfield and destroyed plays.
Yeah.
And so it was like, crap, we did not get them out of nickel defense, so we still can't throw, but now we can't even run. These were his stats that year. Baylor won the Big 12 championship. 75 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, 3 forced fumbles.
Yeah, he was a baller, dude.
It was the closest I've ever seen to Troy Polamalu in the Big 12.
Yeah, he was a baller. If you could do it, if you get a good nickel, they're a pain. Also, you know who had a good nickel? Arizona State had a good nickel that could do that too. He was out the first half of our game because he targeted the game before, I think, but that was also a nickel that was super disruptive and could also fire. I remember him, and then Vanderbilt's nickel really stuck out to me this year.
That dude, that Sun Devil dude came into the game, and one of the first things that happened when he came into the game was Texas was backed up on the goal line.
Yeah.
And he ran through somebody on a nickel blitz and got the safety.
Yeah.
What was that guy's name? Is he back?
Who?
What's his name?
I can't remember his name. I just remember he's a player, man.
They had that Texas transfer on the back end ended up being really good too as a deep safety.
Savon Alford.
Yeah.
The 40 acres landlord.
Yeah, they're unreal at finding things in the portal and making them work.
Let's hope they don't go to OU, man.
I remember I was last year on my Substack, americaswargame.substack.com. I was I'm not really invested in the Big 12 anymore, but here's all the things I've learned about trying to pick the Big 12 champion. It's really hard. I'm going to apply them all one more time and see if we can figure it out. And I didn't even research Arizona State. I didn't even look them up because they were 2-7 the year before or something crazy. And then they just smashed everyone.
Yeah. Dealing with them is going to be tough, man.
Not our problem.
It could be. It could be in a year, man. Hopefully our good old Oklahoma doesn't make the right decision.
Oh, you're talking about if they hired Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about some kind of expansion scenario. I was like, oh.
No. If they hire Dillingham.
Oklahoma, they don't seem like they're in a good mental space for decision making, so I'm not too worried just yet.
Yeah, they're not crushing it. I was watching Mateer highlights the
I
other
feel
day.
like they're in a bring Bob Stoops back kind of mode right now.
Yeah.
Mateer, tell me about Mateer.
I was just watching his highlights the other day, man. He's a player. But of course, these are highlights, right? So it's like I got to go back and watch like actual Texas Tech or whatever, because I looked through his stats and like he had a couple games where his like completion percentage was like 52% or whatever. So he's had some like, it seems like he can high highs and some low lows.
If you look
I
at
need
his,
to go. But man, he makes some throws, dude. Like he does some stuff in the pocket, and of course his running ability. But I also think it's high risk, high reward, right? Like hanging around the pocket that long versus like a Colin Simmons is not wise. So it's like I want to see the diminishing returns, but he's a good quarterback, man. Like he makes some really like those frustrating OU versus Texas plays, where you're just like, oh, we had them covered and they go for 40. He can do those. So that's what I'm always heightened aware of when I scout any OU is like, can they do those backbreakers when it's like 3rd and 15 and we think we got them? And Mateer, I think, provides that. But I need to sit down and watch him versus Tech the whole game, to see what he is down to down. But I think he's a good quarterback, man.
His sack rate is abysmal.
Yeah, it's got to be.
He was making stuff happen. It was awful.
Yeah, it's got to be, because like I was like some of these plays, I was like, man, when they work, they're making the highlight reel, but there's no way they work that often.
It's tough. There used to be this guy on Barking Carnival that called himself Chris Applewhite that did like amazing X's and O's stuff in like the late aughts on Barking Carnival, and he did this like preview of Texas versus Nebraska in the 2009 championship, and he's like, I'll tell you what. And the worst thing that can happen is to have a quarterback that's used to buying time and getting away from people, trying to do that against Ndamukong Suh. Because he is kryptonite to the quarterback that's used to being able to move around and get away. And like then sure enough, Ndamukong Suh was like Rudy montage throwing Colt McCoy around the field. Colt McCoy's flying in the air.
Yeah, it's
that could be Mateer versus Simmons next year is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. That's why I think they're gonna have some interesting and like I think at the end of their season last year, they went on like a 4-game losing streak. Yeah, they go on a 4-game losing streak to New Mexico, Oregon State, Wyoming, and Syracuse. And I just need to investigate what happened there. Because they were almost undefeated. They only had 1 loss prior to that. Very weird. And like some of the highlights I'm watching are versus Portland State. And it doesn't mean because it's Portland State that you can't recreate it. But for instance, some of the touchdowns were like a sick throw from Mateer, and then the wide receiver beats the corner for like 30 yards. And to me, that's like, okay, that's not really a Mateer thing. Also, if that corner was a 4-4 versus a 4-6 guy, does that wide receiver break? So highlights can be a little deceiving too. Like when you'll see like quarterback highlights where they throw a screen and the wide receiver houses it, and you're like, who cares? That has nothing to do with the quarterback. But I mean, they got the win versus Washington. Washington wasn't great. They got the win versus Tech. That's all right. But mostly they got to, not mostly, they got to play a G5 schedule masquerading as a power conference. So I need to check him out more. What do you think from what you've seen of him?
Well, I definitely think he's dangerous, but I don't think I don't know if they're going to be able to protect him super well. Probably better than last year, but I don't know how good the protection will be against top pass rushes. I question the run game. I wonder how he'll hold up if he tries to play hero ball on the SEC schedule. Although he probably will be able to do it against Texas before he breaks down.
Yeah.
And I think that they don't have any outside receivers worth a lick. And that's a killer regardless of anything else. They also don't have tight ends. They're not in a great place. They're going to need him to do an awful lot. Like when we worry about how much Arch is probably going to have to do next year, there's just like another order of magnitude more that Mateer is going to have to do for them to be any good at all.
Yeah. Did I ever hit the Luxe ad? I don't think I did.
Hit it.
All right, guys. Let's hear a word from Lux.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's L-U-X-E. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
You had to put your money on it. Who's going to be star next year?
Well, it sounds like they want McDonald to be there. So I would bet on that. I think I have this list here of reasons why moving Gilbo to corner might be good. One is that right now, if you don't move Gilbo, your starting corners are probably Muhammad and Kobe Black. Black might be ready, and he may not. I feel better about Kobe Black as rotating in at corner regularly as a third guy than I do about him being a front line, has to be great starter. I don't think we've heard that Nick corner might be a better position for Gilbo than nickel. I think like the perfect example of this is the third down simulated nickel blitz that Georgia beat for a touchdown right before the half. They bring Gilbo late on a blitz. Somebody else flushes Will Howard out because they were like releasing the lineman for a screen. And Gilbo has a moment where he sees Howard flushing out, and it's either hold on, they might be throwing a screen,
Or just keep going forward.
or here's my chance to go hit the quarterback. And he chooses, here's my chance to go hit the quarterback, which is a long shot. And of course, Howard just floats it. And then there were other things that went wrong on that play. It wasn't all Gilbo's fault. But I feel like you see things like that with Gilbo now and again where I just don't think he maximizes at nickel where he has to read everything. I think he'd be better one-on-one against a corner. What else to have? Also, if he can do it, kind of like with Barron. Barron was almost wasted at nickel.
Yeah.
It turned out he could play corner.
Turns out. Yeah.
So I don't think we were surprised by that. But corner is more valuable than nickel. You can get by with a really like a heady, good corner can be really valuable at nickel. But a truly elite cover corner, you want them to play corner.
Yeah, because it simplifies everything coverage-wise too. Because you can just lock that corner on the boundary or whatever, and now you have way easier ways to cheat coverages too. So yeah, it makes a athletic difference, and it makes a schematic difference to just have a lockdown corner.
Yeah, I think you get a huge boost in your defense if your nickel can play man coverage.
That's true too. Yeah,
but the bar is just, can he play man coverage? Because it's easy to give him help.
Yeah, you can keep a safety over. You can keep a safety over him all the time if you have to.
Yeah, if he can play lockdown man coverage, like island man coverage, then play him at corner. That's all right. So there's like I don't know if he's maximized inside. Plus, he might be really good outside. And then if McDonald can play star, then awesome.
What do you feel about that? Man, I like Jelani up high. Like, I like his ability to be able to come down from the perch and hit guys. Now, the coaches have generally, not even generally, like almost 100% been correct with these evaluations. So I don't want to push back too much, but man, there's something about Jelani McDonald being able to fire down is cool to me. But you said he was able to just mug a guy from the nickel, right? And that's
Yeah,
also a beautiful thing to see.
I think the length is more useful at nickel than back at safety.
Mhm.
I don't know if if the length comes into play as much if he's on the back end. I
Only
think
in like an interception scenario or like a mossing scenario is that length going to be the huge difference.
this just doesn't really come up. His physicality, I think, is more likely to come into play at nickel. The physicality that's really valuable when you're on the back end at safety is if you're running downhill and can initiate a violent collision at full speed.
Yeah.
And that's actually more the purview of compact build than length. So
You have much more leverage. It's like a Michael Taft body type is stronger at that.
Earl Thomas was like, because Earl Thomas was like 5'9", 5'10", and like 200 pounds. Quandre Diggs.
Getting hit by a Ford Ranger, dude.
Vaccaro was the guy that they played at nickel that I thought actually should have played deep safety. And they moved him to deep safety at the end of the year. Because I was like, it's great that he can lock down slots and show all this value, but we really need him on the back end to clean up everybody's mistakes, which were so numerous. It was unbelievable how many mistakes that defense made.
So bring McDonald down that way. They're not going to be able to run on us to the field side because he's going to be able to beat that up. He's going to be able to have enough man ability to stay with slots underneath. And also he can make some sick plays. Remember that interception he made this year that was just like stupid? I think it was preseason, or maybe it was Chat will tell us the one where McDonald just like laid out and got that pick. So he can do he can do some freaky stuff too. So yeah, and then you said Jordan Johnson Rebel up high as a smart player.
Yeah, ideally Derek Williams.
Yeah,
who's also really long, but Derek Williams is like the rangiest tackler I've seen at Texas in a long time.
Yeah,
he covers ground downhill so fast, which I guess length helps there with your like long legs.
Yeah,
he does it so well and so precise and makes good tackles. So
I'm excited, dude. Derek Williams was one of my favorite grabs, man. I was so bummed when he went down.
Yeah, Derek Williams was like, we got excited about McDonald because he got all these chances to play.
Yeah.
Before the season and early in the year, we're like, Derek Williams is like one of the most talented guys we've seen back there in a long time.
In a long time. Yeah, man. I hope he heals up all good because I think he'll be special too. How does Jelani McDonald compare to Isaiah Simmons from Clemson? Both freak athletes who can play multiple positions in the secondary and even some in the box.
No. Simmons was 6'4", 230. Isaiah Simmons, you need to imagine if Colin Simmons were playing man coverage. That was Isaiah Simmons. He was so bizarre. McDonald is actually meaningfully smaller than Simmons, even though he's really big for a defensive back. He's more like, I'm trying to think, it was a good comp for.
No idea.
McDonald. It'd be like, boy, Texas hasn't had many that could play. You know, Ryan Watts. Ryan Watts, if he played inside instead of corner, would be more like what Jelani McDonald, I think, is like.
But I think Jelani's more athletic.
How so?
I think he's faster.
Okay. Ryan Watts at the combine, 6'3", 208 pounds, 4'5", 340, 40.5-inch vertical, 4'13" shuttle. I don't know if McDonald would beat any of those.
You don't think McDonald can beat the 4.5?
No. He might be that fast, but I don't think he would beat it.
I think he would, man. Watching him in high school, dude, like that was a special caliber of athlete. And the fact that we can get him at safety or nickel is what's stupid because he's like an athlete.
I was a big McDonald doubter because he played the same.
I was not at all.
Well, he played that same Harold Perkins position where I was like, cool.
You hate Harold Perkins. I don't know what it is mentally with you, but you've like,
you know what it is? It's that
just taking an athlete without a position.
Because we saw it in such a disastrous way with Malik Jefferson.
Yeah.
Malik Jefferson figured it out to his credit, but he had to like learn to play linebacker. It took a long time. It took till his third year. And then of course we lost him immediately, which was sad.
Yeah.
You know, how is Jelani obviously better than I think you guys are
not obviously better, a better athlete. Like I think he is obviously a better athlete than Ryan Watts. Like in verifiables.
Those numbers I just put up are insane.
Yeah, I think Jelani's would be better.
Jelani did a Spark test a couple years ago, and he had a 4.4 shuttle, a 31-inch vertical, and he did not run the 40, and he was still only 6'2", 180.
When did you do the Spark test? At what age? We'd have to compare a Ryan Watts Spark test a junior year. We can't compare a sophomore in high school to an NFL combine guy.
Things like a vertical only changes so much, though. I think Ryan Watts looked less athletic to everybody because he was playing corner. And so you didn't have as many plays where you would see him go from here to here in a straight line and tackle somebody.
Well, I think, too, with Watts is like Watts – people were used to Watts like having to play a deep zone or man in the red zone. Like the coaches were more nervous about him getting beat over the top.
He played press coverage like half the season, though.
I know, but the fans just feel like that. Like that's his like because in the red, that's where he was most dangerous was like red zone man press. But also when you're playing press in that situation, you don't really have to worry about getting beat over the top. Johnny is better in space and will finish better than Watts, in my opinion. Ian, you don't have anybody here, man. I'm not just picking my comments. These are all the comments on.
I think there's a.
We'll put.
I think there's. What do you call the bias where it's like the next shiny thing rather than the known commodity?
Yeah, I mean, there's always that chance, but I don't think this is. I think he's a better athlete. No, but we can bet. We'll bet a coffee on it whenever 2 years from now. We'll do hard combine numbers, so it's proven. We'll bet a coffee on it.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
Watts plays more stiff upright. Jelani is very fluid and athletic. The measurables may be similar, but it translates differently for Jelani.
Because I think this is strictly because you guys see Jelani do different tasks on the football field. Turning and running and press coverage is the hardest athletic thing you can do. And Watts did it at 6'3", 208.
Yeah.
If McDonald could do it, they would play him at corner.
Yeah. What's McDonald's weight right now? Do you have that pulled up?
I think it's 6'2", 205. I mean, that's what they list. With Texas, God only knows.
Yeah. Knock an inch off and like knock 10 pounds off.
Or throw 10 pounds on, like, who knows?
Yeah. And this is also, too, like, the argument is not that Ryan Watts is not an athlete. That's not the argument. The argument is that we think Jelani McDonald is a better athlete amongst two incredible athletes. We don't want to reduce it into, like, Ryan Watts, what a scrub, dude. Have fun in the NFL, scrub. Like, that's not what we're saying. All right.
Apparently he was injured this year for the Steelers, so I don't have any NFL rebuttals for you guys.
Yeah.
I wish I
love
did.
Ryan Watts. Ryan Watts was one of my favorite players for us. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out. We enjoyed it. I made it through with the flu. Ian, thank you. Fans, thanks for the good chats. Peace, y'all. Hook 'em.